Well, are we ready?
Hopefully you are.
I doubt it.
Did you have your whiskey this morning?
No. As soon as we finish here, I'll go get me shot and I'll be okay. Did you make any new ones?
New what?
New bathtub gin. Did you make any gin?
Bathtub gin.
You made some new ones?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'll come and get some.
I had to break into new bombing tables.
Oh, gross. Disgusting.
On the bombing.
We'll break it in.
Oh, we'll talk later. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the annual performance of Voices from the Past. Voices from the Past is brought to you by Fun Time Theatre. Now, if you'd like to know anything else about Fun Time Theatre, you can go to our website at funtimetheatre.com. Now, let me
Widow, excuse me.
What?
I don't believe these fine people didn't come all the way up here to look at spider webs.
I didn't say spider web. I said website.
Web, spider.
No. On a computer. Oh, goodness. It's a box. It sits on the table. It's got buttons in front. You push the button, a picture comes up, and it's a website.
It's a much more advanced piece of technology than a typewriter.
I don't think he even knows what a typewriter is yet.
That's fair.
Well, anyway, let me introduce myself. I am the widow of the silver Terrace. I am the heart and soul of the cemetery. A cemetery nearing disappearance into the shadows of Sun Mountain. A cemetery nearing reclamation into desert land.
My name is Thomas Wilson, and this is my lovely daughter, Miss Wilson. What?
I didn't say anything.
You're going against tradition. She's still single. Anyway, Wilson and Brown were the undertakers of Virginia City, and as was typical of the time, also furniture makers.
Well, think about it. He made boxes after all. He couldn't make tables. Sorry.
My job to keep it comfortable, whether you were sitting up or laid out. I'm the one to provide the more gruesome details of the burial practices of the 1800s and to help you understand the symbolism of the cemetery.
We will be your guide for the next 90 minutes. On your tour today, you will have the opportunity to meet several residents, each with a true story about life and death on the Comstock.
We ask that you please form a half circle around each resident, and if at any times you have trouble hearing, just raise your hand and the residents will make sure that you can hear.
Or you can get a little closer.
We don't bite, I promise. Although some of us might.
Is
Just
it
Lavinia.
medium?
Lavinia, yeah, it's your turn.
Is it the costume? You'll notice. I'm sorry.
What?
It's a first show, okay? It's been a year. You'll notice that I am dressed in partial mourning, which allows me some color. Color for hope, color for the future, and a prayer for the return of the flowers. True mourning attire consists of dull black clothing, no jewelry, and a hat with a crape or light veil. Now, typically, only the men were allowed to attend the funerals. But women were required to wear the attire 12 months for the death of a child and 24 months for the death of a husband. Now, due to the high cost of mourning attire, a women's activist group called the Mourning Reform Association
Yeah, tradition went right out the window.
tried to eliminate that custom. Did we succeed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Yes!
Gentlemen, they follow you after you die, so you're never able.
There's a tall one.
He is tall.
Just
Are
think
you the
if I had
missus?
a hat like yours. Well, I can tell you how long the box I made.
You want to hold it? Oh, get your wings up.
Papa's gonna bring in a bunch of money with you.
Have to take down about 14 spruce.
About a
for
month.
hatching.
We get to
A
go
month?
vacation for a whole month. Yes! I get to go too.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
You can find another husband.
yeah. I do. I'm lonesome. I miss a husband right now.
Now, the Silver Terrace got its name from a piece of land within the cemetery that used to be an old mining claim. Now, the Silver Terrace is actually a collection of separate smaller cemeteries representing fraternal, religious, and other community organizations such as the Masons, Pacific Coast Pioneers, the Knights of Pythias, and the Catholics. Now, the Catholics moved 3 cemeteries here by 1874, and they're way in the back. Now, the Jewish cemetery didn't want to move with us, so they're about 2 valleys over that way. The famous prostitute that was murdered, Julie Bulette, she's buried somewhere on that hill. She was at first buried in the fireman's section, but the women of the town got really upset because of her profession. She was not supposed to be buried here, so we lost that war. Now the Chinese, we see that silver slag on the side of the hill just below it. Now that's where the Chinese buried their dead. Now the Chinese, after they buried their dead, they would wait about a year before digging up the bones and shipping them back to China. Now this is a working class cemetery. There's no famous people buried here. Probably why it's in such bad shape. No famous people, just us, and most of us had tough lives compared to your standards. But we had some great times back then.
Thomas and Brianna will take you on a tour of the lower section of the cemetery, and I will meet you up on top in the Masonic section, because I also have old knees and they can't quite take the hills anymore.
You should see Dr. Kirby about that, widow.
Well, I have, and he's helping. That's why I can even walk around up that hill. So anyway,
He's such a good doctor.
if you please follow them.
So we'd like to acknowledge the Comstock Cemetery Foundation. They're the folks who've been doing all the work here since we started this. Now, when we first started doing this tour, none of this fencing was here. Thefts and vandalism were rampant. People would ride the horses and those motorized things through here, damaging headstones and things of that nature.
But now this wrought iron fence surrounds the whole entire perimeter of the cemetery.
Wow.
All the way down around the Catholic section, and we have cameras up now 24 hours, and theft and vandalism since then has dropped 80%.
That was the first year. I'm sure it's dropped more
Oh, yeah.
since then. The foundation, so the tours that we've been able to do throughout the years has gained the foundation some more recognition, which has been able to get them grants to keep up the restoration of the cemetery. So they replaced the white picket fencing around the sections that we're about to go into right now, which is the west end and the firemen's sections. And they were able to use ground penetrating radar to see where bodies were actually buried. Because this cemetery is so eroded, it's on a slope, sometimes the bodies have moved from their original position. So with the ground penetrating radar, they were able to make walkways in that section, as well as lay new water pipes to get water back, so we can water some of the flora in the area.
Because with all the movement of the cemeteries, a lot of times the body was moved, but not the headstone, and vice versa. So when we first started here, a lady had mailed a headstone back to the foundation. She had it for 20 years. She was using it as a doorstop. Her conscience got the better of her, and she mailed it back. It took a number of years, but the foundation finally found out where the person was and was able to place her headstone back on their grave. They also take care of the Gold Hill Cemetery. There's a story about the Jones brothers. On a wintry night, the father came home, he was drunk, told the boys to go out and get the cows, and they ended up dying. And they had a beautiful headstone, but back in the 1970s, somebody stole it. Fast forward to the early 2000s, a church in Petaluma, California said, hey, I think we have a headstone here. We don't know who it belongs to. It might be yours. It turned out to be the original headstone of the Jones brothers.
They had built a replacement for the gravestone and then got that call and realized that there were more names on the back of the headstone.
Yeah, there's 4 other children there. So there were 6 children buried there. And prior to the original headstone being located, toys would be left there and what have you. As soon as the original was put back, the toys stopped coming. So kind of a secret message there. And that house up there, that's from American Flats. It was built in the 1870s. The descendants of the owners donated it to us, and for an information center. And they've done a lot of remodeling on it to make it look like it looks today. Now, but what you see here today has eroded and decayed. But back in the 1800s, this was a beautiful piece of land, used as a quiet place of meditation and contemplation by the residents of Virginia City. Now, this cemetery was once described as the most beautiful cemetery in the state of Nevada.
I'd like to begin our tour with a gravestone poem that originated in the 13th century Europe, I believe, and made its way to America around the 1900s. Stop and read as you pass by. As you are now, once was I. As I am now, you will be. Prepare for death and follow me.
Prepare for death and follow me. Now, one more thing. The cemeteries back then are the forerunners of our city parks today. Because at the time, in places like this, the cemeteries were the only green shaded area of the town. Residents would go up there and have picnics and what have you with their loved ones. So this was a very busy piece of land.
One of our, we'll say, less cooperative residents.
Near Century, she would be known as a whack job.
Yeah.
Now the gate we're going to go through is the original gate to the West End Retirement Center.
Mrs. Gladden, we're almost there. Please be patient. Give you more time to get into the pet space or whatever you call it for your. I'm ready.
That's great.
What was it you called me, Mr. Wilson? A black house. I am ready to do whatever that means.
I don't think it means what you think it means. It's probably correct.
Uses a lot of anatomy, I don't quite understand.
He's the one stuck in the past. Yes, please watch your step throughout the entire walk, really.
If you want to watch it from the top of the fence, yeah, I might. Been here, done it.
Hello, Miss Wilson. How are you today?
I'm very well. How about you, Mrs. Lang?
Doing very well.
Oh, I see you've got a nice one for me. Thank you so much. Can you come here for a second, please? Come here. Believe me, I don't steal souls. Can I borrow your palms?
Yeah.
I'm going to turn them over. All right. So, I'm going to turn you around. You're going to be part of the show now. All right? So, what's your dominant hand? What do you write with? This, you're right with your right hand. All right, this right here is your present. This is your past. All right? Or your future. Your future. So I'm going to read your present because I don't read the future because I'm too far in the past. So, this right here is your lifeline. All right? It's nice and deep. It doesn't mean how long you're going to live. Everybody makes that mistake. It means how much life is in your life. All right? How well you're going to live. Currently, I'm guessing
you're a student because your lifeline and your headline match up, which means you live what you're doing for your head. All right? So that makes sense. This is wonderful. This is that one thing I love to see. You have a very individual personality, I'm assuming that. Very outgoing, by herself, wants to do her own thing. Because your heart line goes right here in the middle, you do not have to worry about bows. She will know her own mind. And she's not going to let them get in her way. All right? And it looks like you've actually got a couple of feet lines. So I want you to do me a favor and stay in school, because you're going to do something amazing when you grow. All right? Let me go back to mom. All right?
Miss Lannon, I was wondering.
I've got this, Miss Wilson. I can do this. It's fine. I know what I'm doing.
I'll stand over here.
Thank you. I love reading poems, but my greatest talents were in the seances, attended by the likes of Mark Twain. And I made sure those were some of my best. Well, I must say, I am surprised. This place is still a dump, but, at least you've done some of the things I've requested. The damn tree's finally gone.
Yes, yes.
And someone has repaired my headstone. Who says the living don't listen to the dead? Death is but a kindly frost that cracks the shell and allows the kernel room to germinate. Such a beautiful epitaph. My coffin was to die for, too. Highly polished, clear sugar pine without a particle of paint or putty, trimmed in red satin lining. Oh, beautiful. It is true, as was stated in the paper, that I may be consulted in events the shadows of which have yet to present themselves upon our lives. I can see and feel these shadows, and in my mind they take apprehensible shapes. I held seances in my home for 9 years. The Virginia City Spiritualist Society Hall was located beneath the dental office of Dr. Powers at 34 B Street. We had a very large following. Women are naturally intuitive and able to set aside self in order to speak with the dead and see into the future. The Victorian era, however, did not allow for women to have much say in life or politics. But as a spiritualist, I could say any darn thing I wanted and get the crowd's attention. And I got yours, didn't I? Idly Bowers was my better. She used a peepstone in order to see in the future and to speak with the dead. Life on the Comstock was easy for a good, credible spiritualist. No money troubles here. Didn't rely on those mines for anything, just my own talents. You see, death is but a transition, and a place where the living can come and speak with the dead. Or in this case, the dead can speak with the living. Okay, so I loved a Chinese funeral better than a picnic. I remember the funeral of Hop Sing.
Yes.
He died in 1882, was a merchant, a man of means, and a great leader amongst his people, and his funeral was truly awe-inspiring. A Chinese band of 8 pieces, pallbearers and a hearse, all went up Union and then out past the old hospital on C Street to their burial ground. The minister sat in the back in a buggy, and he had these giant boxes of red tissue paper, and they had these little tiny holes in them. And he'd take the tissue paper and he'd throw it this way and that. For you see, the Chinese believed that the devil would have to pass through every one of those little tiny holes in order to get at the soul of the deceased. After the burial was done, a tablecloth was laid out with cooked foods as a feast for the gods. Though in this case it was for the Paiute Indians lying in wait to clean up. Their graveyard wasn't like ours. There wasn't any trees, no flowers, no headstones. They would sometimes write the names in pencil on a wooden board. The Chinese believed that death opened a doorway into another world. Oh, I loved those funerals. I often wonder if I shouldn't have been born Chinese.
Mrs. Lannon,
What?
the article in the Goat Hill Late Evening News.
All right. It was good. I'm sure you'll like it. Oh, all right.
Now, on September 15th, 1875, it was reported, and I'm going to quote here, Some of the Virginia City firemen say that a number of people in the city are firm in the belief that the whole, or at least the greater part, of the place will shortly be destroyed by fire. They say that disaster has been predicted by certain spiritualists.
I was good.
1 month later, Virginia City was devastated by the greatest fire in its history.
They should have listened to me.
I know.
Keep saying, of course, no, you know. Now listen, just because there's been some things done around here doesn't mean there's not more to do. I'll be seeing you all sometime in the future. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mrs. Matt.
Thank you, Miss Weasley.
You should stay.
No, it's all right.
Admire- Lavinia, you're going to make your place down here with me.
Come on, honey bunny.
So many lumpy places.
Papa, where's George?
Oh, he's busy. Don't talk about him.
All right.
So I'm here to talk about my good friend George. He's a fireman. And there's one thing that firemen always think about. Fire and water.
And how to keep down the women. Lavinia. Oh, I'm sorry.
You had George.
You're right. You're right.
Now, if George was here, he would say that this plot of land is in danger. Now, we had water running throughout most of the cemetery property in the 1870s. Well, for fires, yes, but also to protect the monuments and the flowers of the cemetery. Some of his friends helped lay those lines, and they worked quite fine. The only thing left now are these old rusted pipes and no new source of water. George would not be happy. Now, George was the chief of the Virginia City Paid Fire Department. He started off as a junior hose member of the Knickerbocker Engine Company No. 5, then foreman of the company, and finally chief. We had our first real fire in Virginia City in 1860 on a wintry day. No fire department. So the citizens attempted to extinguish the flames of the cabin with snowballs.
Yes.
As many as could be thrown. Well, after that, we were lucky enough to have Thomas Peasley organize the first volunteer fire company in Virginia City. Virginia City Engine Company No. 1. Now, he was a fireman in every sense of the word. He was Mose. Many stories have been told about the mythical yet heroic deeds of Mose. While he saved babies and beautiful women.
No, he saved all the women. George only saved the pretty ones. Lavinia. But it's true.
Well, I'd have second thoughts if they were anything like you old snapping.
Will you both calm down, please? We have guests.
She lit the tree on her grave.
Papa!
Songs were sang about him and plays were done. And he was what every fireman wanted to be, including George. Now, by 1874, the Comstock would have 6 engine companies, a hook and ladder company, and 5 hose companies. 500 men. Now, from the beginning, there was a rivalry between the fire companies and fistfights.
Yes.
And occasionally, this would interfere with putting out fires. But a strong leader always got the men back on task with a firm hand. In more ways than one. No matter. They lost the Battle of 1875. October 26, 1875, a date to remember. A fire broke out in Crazy Kate's boarding house on A Street, east of the courthouse. All firemen were out in force. But they lost 33 square blocks of Virginia City and 1,000 homes. They lost Piper's, the International Hotel, all the train depots. Most of the saloons and much of the equipment and buildings of the fire companies were consumed in wind-licking flames. The newspaper blamed the firemen, the old rivalries and street fights, the chief engineer for not using his water supplies wisely. Not true. George always blamed fire. It is unpredictable and uncontrollable. You know, George had a saying about fire. He always said that fire was kind of like a woman.
Oh!
Not easy to read, embrace, nor understand. She'll go along for us. Now, my friend George died of a broken neck from a fall at the Virginia City Gas Works where he was employed. His two sons had strayed away from home a few days before.
It was believed that distraction and worry contributed to his fall. George was Mose, and like many of his comrades, a hero on the Comstock. Please follow me. Hi, Thomas.
Oh no, Missy! The women of Virginia City have stated they don't want your kind here. Kindly get you back to your graveyard.
Like reading people's fortunes is a godlike way to make money. At least what I do makes men feel good in an honest sort of way. Besides, most of us are here way before you petticoat rackers arrived in this mining camp.
Lavinia, knock it off. You know she's an honorary volunteer of the firemen.
Yes, I'm sure she knows how to put out a fire.
Now, Miss U.S., I don't remember inviting you on our walk today.
Oh, by the way, George wanted to let me know that he's taking his monthly bath for your baby tonight.
Oh, but that's nice of him. No wonder he's my favorite person. I was killed by John Miller, our millin on D Street, where most of us ladies live. And he was a regular customer, and to this day, I'm still not sure why he killed me. But he did get his, though, by the neck, before the entire town. And the ladies of Virginia City objected to my burial over there on the hill, where today my body rests. The firemen stood up for me, and today there my body rests. Oh my goodness. I just thought I would come to the town cemetery and take in some air, where it was made for walking and thinking about the past. This was a man's town when I arrived, unlike any other towns, where the pinched up old ladies came a lot faster, just like the ore came a lot faster, more than any other town that I had lived in. In the 1860s, only 5% of the population were women, but that quickly changed. Over 50 years, the female population grew to nearly 47%, at the highest. The money was good enough that I had nice jewelry and fancy dresses, where most of it my killer took when he killed me. That's how they discovered him. He was trying to sell my jewelry. And the black oval pin that I loved so much was given to me by my first madam. And the dresses, the delicate dresses. Life of a working lady in the town was not easy, and I had thought for a moment or two about quitting my job, but not soon enough. I want you to keep that in mind. Do when the spirit moves you, or it could be too late. Keep short accounts on your and debits on your responsibilities. I guess that's what I think about these days, short accounts. I know that there are wonderful stories told about me, and even the V&T rail car number 13 was named after me. And those spoiled dove stories that they told about me weren't true. My life was not romantic, and I couldn't find my calling. It was all that I could do to survive. I tried to give to the needy causes, just like the ladies did in Virginia City, the wanted and the unwanted ones. But please believe me, I had a good heart, and all those stories they told about me weren't true. I want you to keep in mind, the stories about me weren't true. and I just needed to make a living, and Virginia City was one wealthy man's town to be. Thank you guys for coming. Have a great day. Good to see you.
Have a good day, Miss Bulette. Please follow me. Papa, I do hope you're planning to share some of this fine meal with our guests.
Actually, my daughter, I am not. No matter how congenial our guests may be. I've missed these darn little oysters. Now, this was the food of the Comstock, and a mighty fine meal. Though we don't normally get to eat and drink in such quiet. And the air is so clean. It never was clean.
Yes.
You know, before we go further, I want to tell these fine folks a little story.
Yes, please. It's
I
such
want
a good story.
to tell you the story about the death prank. Now, this death prank was pulled off in 1860 by Henry Jackson and Billy Nixon. Now, both men were miners, and they both had a plot of land, just like everybody else. But after a while, they sold it to a rich gentleman from California for $1,400. Now, can anybody tell me how they spent that money? Any idea? Drinking and gambling.
Oh, yeah.
Leaving them penniless. And as neither one was inclined to hard labor, not much hope for the future. So Nixon, being the smarter of the two, devised a plan. Jackson would become extremely ill, and Nixon would work the town for money to buy medical supplies. Well, now Jackson took an immediate liking to this role, which required nothing more than laying down and moaning.
Yes.
And the prank began. Well, on the first day, Nixon was able to collect $450. But by the third day, the town started to lose their patience. So Nixon thought for a while and said, we need to escalate this illness, and he told Jackson that he would have to die. Well, now the most amazing death scene ensued, one that would rival Hamlet. Nixon collected $300 for the funeral. You're not going to believe what happened next.
Papa, I believe a new resident has arrived. I think you might need to show them around.
Okay, I'll go up there. I'll have John tell you the rest of the story up on top. He's our railroad guy, great storyteller, and he's very funny. See you up on top.
He is such a funny. See you up top, Papa.
Okay.
Hello. Casey Malone. It's been a while. If you would mind telling these fine folks about your life in Virginia City.
I'd love to. I lived here myself from the time I was 3 until I was 19. The sisters lived and worked caring for Virginia City's children, the ill and the poor, from 1864 to 1897. The town of Virginia City was only about 5 years old when 3 Sisters of Charity arrived at the request of Father Patrick Minogue. They found a building at the corner of K and Washington Streets to house a combination convent, orphanage, and boarding school. The doors were opened in October of 1864 and housed 3 sisters along with 12 children. By July of 1865, there were 25 residents, sisters and children, with 112 students attending school. The fee for the boarders were whatever their families could manage, and school children paid from $2 to $4 a month. With Virginia City's growing population, there was a continuing need for larger space and accommodations. The sisters held many fundraising fairs, which included competitive activities in the daytime and music and dancing in the evenings. Some of these fairs would last the whole week long, and some earned up to $16,000. The sisters really enjoyed these fairs, and the people they met there became good and lifelong friends. They still needed to build a hospital, though. The closest one was Story County Hospital, which was several hours away by buggy ride. In order to do this, they went to the more wealthy residents in town. One such friend was Mary Louise Mackey, who was the wife of the famous Comstock millionaire, John Mackey, and who had taught French in our school before she married him. She arranged for the sisters to obtain 6 acres of land for the hospital. The hospital was named St. Mary Louise Hospital in honor of Miss Mackey, and the doors were open in 1876.
Yes.
The hospital is 4 stories high, cost $40,000 to build, and could accommodate 70 patients at once. It boasted 5 public wards and 12 private rooms, steam heating, a well-stocked reading room, and bathrooms on every floor, which included showers. The operating room also had hot and cold running water. There were gardens of flowers, as well as fruit trees and vegetables, which yielded enough produce to supply good and healthy meals. It also had a chapel, which had a window, which would open onto one of the wards so that patients could attend services. The sisters assigned to the hospital lives in the attic. The cost for a hospital stay was $1 a month. By 1897, the ore veins were becoming depleted, and the population of the town went with it. The sisters found it harder and harder to continue supporting the school, hospital, convent, and orphanage. They closed down in 1897. Luckily, Sister Angelica didn't have to see that sad day. She passed away in 1893. She and another sister are at rest in the Catholic section. Only a small part of the original school and orphanage remain. It has been moved to what is called the Collin Ranch area in Reno. It is now called St. Mary's Art Center. Oh, there's so much more I'd love to tell you, but it's almost time for our afternoon prayers. May the remainder of your journey be pleasant, and may God bless you all.
Have a wonderful day.
Oh, you too.
But don't be late for your prayers.
Oh, of course not. Have a lovely day, guys.
Katie lived here to help with the children until she herself moved to Baltimore to join the Sisters of Charity at the age of 19. She then moved to New Orleans two years later and became the administrator of Charity Hospital. She lived there for the rest of her days and died at the age of 86, adored by all those whom she served. And now St. Mary's Art Center is that building at that very last building over there. So yeah, St. Mary's Art Center. So we would climb that hill and then work our way down and then climb up that hill that we came down originally, but we kept losing people on the way back. So it's easier to go downhill twice than uphill twice. Fine folks a tour of our magnificent cemetery.
Well, you know, it's a nice day for it.
It is. Not too hot quite yet.
Well, you know, the weather changes around here.
Oh yes.
Just nobody sneezes. Oh, look at all these fine folks visiting our cemetery. Well, that's awful nice of you.
James, I was wondering if you might be able to tell these fine folks a little bit about your life. You were a miner after all, and we were a mining town.
Well, I could probably tell you a little bit, but you folks aren't seeing my Virginia city. My Virginia city, well, it was noisy, it was stinky, it was like you didn't want to drink the water, and you know, well, it just ain't my Virginia city. I can't say that.
James was a miner for 12 years. He had moved up to the position of putman shortly before his death in 1879. He was working at the 2,000-foot level below when a plank from a cage fell and struck him in the head. There was a coroner's inquest that cost the county $18.
I was worth every penny.
Yes, you were. But his death was ruled an accident. He left behind 2 fine children, and his wife had preceded him in death in childbirth. Now please, guests, remember, he's a rough man, but this was a harsh place to live. Do you have anything more to say, James?
Well, let me tell you about my story. My story came into town just like a lot of people to come and strike it rich. And better yet, even live long enough to spend it. Now, if you folks came into my Virginia city, like I said, it was noisy and it was filthy. We really didn't have the nice things that we have here.
Yes.
Even the roads were pretty damn bad. But, you know, in my Virginia City, well, we're here because of mining. All these towns around us are here for mining. And it's not because it was a beautiful area and a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day like today. Well, you know, when you went down into the mines, this heat we have now was nothing compared to what we had down below. As a matter of fact, I think it was the Ophir mine, and it was about 700 foot level. They hit a pocket of hot water. The temperature of that water and the air around it was 156 degrees. Now 156 degrees, well, you know, you didn't wear a lot of clothes. You better have some damn good shoes on. And don't put your tools down too long, because it would have a hard time getting it back up. Now, down there, down below, they would give you some candles. And if you were lucky, the candles would burn yellow. And if not, if they start burning blue, that just meant that you didn't have a whole lot of oxygen down there as well. But that's all right. That wasn't the only demons we had to deal with. Like I might have mentioned, the hot water. Now, the hot water, we had like my friend John.
Oh, yes.
He was working on a stope, and he was trying to poke a hole a little bit, and all of a sudden he was up to his waist in hot steaming water. And his fellow workers dragged him, and out of the water he went, but from the waist down, the skin was already peeling off of him, and he died out of shock within minutes of that. And that wasn't the only time that this happened. There was a time where somebody was messing around trying to make the shaft a little deeper, and started leaking hot steaming water. And within hours, we had a hot steaming pool of water about 20 feet tall, about 30 feet wide, and about 100 feet long. And this was under my Virginia City, under the flowers that did grow there, because, you know, occasionally the families, when they came into town, they were trying to pretty it up. But, you know, we worked hard, we played hard, and we died hard out here. You're surrounded by a lot of hard-working people. And so with this people that came in, you're surrounded by them, like I said. You know, in my Virginia City, well, they didn't have like t-shirt shops and ice cream stores. And I think that I probably would have liked to have some ice cream, but it didn't work out that way. So, like I said, we worked hard, we played hard, we died in ways that even the Spanish Inquisition would have had a hard time keeping up with us. So basically, that's my story, my Virginia City, and I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, James.
Well, thank you for bringing some people out to care to listen. You know, you as you walk around and see my friends, tell them I said hi.
You get some rest now, James.
Well, I was thinking of going get some ice cream.
Oh, yes, true. It's going to taste very nice on a day like this.
Yes, yes indeed.
We're going to go this way, folks.
The foundation of maybe clearing our own path.
Oh, yes.
Jag var kanske sent för oss innan jag... Only down here.
Okay.
Are you coming up so far? Mrs. Sanders.
Oh, this is disgraceful. Oh, oh, pain. Oh. Laudanum. It's good for the nerves. Very popular tonic for women. Of course, there was that story about the one woman up the road who hung herself from a living room chandelier after taking a dose. Probably just took too much. Certainly went fast, though. Faster than most women on the Comstock. Women died frequently in childbirth. More frequently once men doctors started delivering our babies. We did just fine with our midwives, but those men, they didn't think to wash their hands sometimes before, and leaving us open to all sorts of infections, long, painful deaths. So I suppose swinging from a chandelier would be faster and less painful than hemorrhaging and starving from malnutrition or poisoning from medicine. But the deaths of the children, those were hard for everyone. No matter how many children you had, you just never got used to death. Daughters died more often than sons because in a large family, the sons would get fed first, so our girls tended to get weak and grow thin if food wasn't plentiful. But still, my little Lee, my youngest, he's buried here, just 6 months and 26 days old when he died on July 15th. I know you can't tell from this, but he really had a lovely, lovely spot. He had a beautiful wooden fence with a lovely little swinging gate and a marble headstone. They were all stolen, but I do see that the foundation has replaced his headstone. It's lovely. Would you thank them for me, Widow?
I would.
Thank you. He really was well loved. It was the fever that took him from me. If I could get my children to their first birthday, I knew they stood a chance. And if they made it to 5, well, their chances are about as good as yours are today. But getting them to 5 was difficult. They say it's because of our water and open sewers. I don't know how that would make them sick and die, but Lee died along with so many children. This cemetery is filled with so many little ones that died from meningitis and smallpox, scarlet fever, brain fever, convulsions. The deaths just got to be so numerous, the piece of paper would just simply list their names. I was never fond of Virginia City. Life in a mining town is hard, and for a woman, finding a man didn't always solve anything. You work and you work and you die just the same. I married Charles here in 1871. He was a miner, and that's the nicest thing I can say about him. We had 5 children. Oh, the more children the better, but Charles wasn't very responsible with or without children. He certainly wasn't the man I hoped for when we married. In truth, he disgusted and shamed me to the point where I felt my only recourse was to take an advertisement out in the local paper. You see, Charles moved out and then proceeded to tell all our friends that I couldn't be trusted. Well, for the sake of the children, I needed to make my position clear. The ad was honest. I have it right here. If Mr. Sanders would take fewer buggy rides with women of questionable character and attend more to his legitimate duties to his family at home, he would have no occasion to disgrace himself by publishing cautions against his only wife who has been neglected. He finds sufficient means to lay provisions, groceries, and millinery goods for other women with whom he consorts.
Mrs. Sanders, we are sorry for your unhappiness.
Oh, Lee. Oh, I hate this place.
shortly after Mrs. Sanders published her article in the newspaper, her son Lee died. The funeral was held in the family home. Life here for women was extremely difficult. Many of them grew bitter here, and Hannah was no exception. Please follow me. You can stay up there.
Okay.
Hang on. Is Papa coming? Or is he going to wait?
Oh, no,
Oh, here he comes. Okay.
you'll be okay.
Foster, we're ready for you. Fossy, you have company. Foster. Foster. What are you trying to do? Get me heart started again?
I got her good. Miners are used to a lot more than 6 feet under to give us a good scare. The miner's life was a proud but dangerous one. I made a king's wage of $4 a day. And the unions, they protected us from Chinese labor and poor wages. Oh, it was a grand life. A dark one, but a great one. Now, you know, miners trusted each other. It's the only way to survive. Death comes in many ways in the mines. From the descent and ascent in the cages, fire, gases, and cave-ins. Fire probably causes the worst troubles though. The Yellow Jacket fire of 1869, now that was a lethal one. Started at the 800-foot level and spread to 2 adjacent mines. Took the lives of as many as 45 men. Good hard-working men they were too. A mine supervisor sent a cage down to the 1,000-foot level, and it was a lantern and a note reading, "We are fast subduing the fire. We will get to you soon. Gas in the shaft produces a sure and speedy death. Write us a note and send it up in the cage. Let us know how you're doing." Returning cage bore no reply though, except for the lantern, which was extinguished by the poisonous gas. Well, it was a sad day, and a quiet one. All the equipment was shut down all over town while everyone came to help. Darn, it was quiet. A lot like it is around here. No, except for the women and children. They were wailing and weeping something awful every time a body was brought up. Father Minogue and a few of his priests went through the crowd trying to console the folks, but to no avail. That fire burned for a year underground, and it was said that 2 years later, the walls of the shafts were still too hot to touch. Oh, fire is something a miner dreads. The heat and all, you can't breathe, and there's no way out. That's me worst fear is the fires. Oh, bless me. Fires are something, but the Tommy knockers aren't much better. We'd be listening for them down there, maybe knocking on wood, those tiny imps. Maybe they're trying to warn us, or just make us angry by taking our tools and dropping stones on our heads. Mischief makers. Wish they stayed in Cornwall.
I do too. Yes.
Now, at the height of mining, we had over 3,000 men on the Comstock. Mostly Irish and English, but we had many experienced men from all over the world. And the new ideas they brought were making it better and safer too. The Union did more than just protect our wages. The old Union Hall burned down in the Great Fire, but the new one on B Street. They have an assembly hall, a ballroom, a chess room, and a free lending library. You can get a book anytime you want. Now that's a nice place. You know, it's a bit of a hike around here. Folks are beginning to look a little tired. This place used to be pretty and refreshing. Shade would cast down from the trees we planted along the carriage and walkways. Many families would plant flowers and shrubs in and around their loved ones' graves. Oh, it was lush and green. Beautiful. Just like England. Would give you a new spirit. I think you would have liked it then. I know I did. Oh, widow. My time is getting short. I hear the voices calling me from down in the shaft. I must rest a bit.
Yes, you rest now.
I sit a spell.
Foster was 36 years old when a fire broke out in the gold and curry mine. He was found dead by the rescue workers. He'd been wearing a woolen shirt and had suffocated.
Foster was immediately placed in his coffin, and the double funeral was held on that day, June 25th, 1887 at 1:30 p.m. The band played I Heard a Voice from Heaven, and he went to his grave in what he believed was a tree green English cemetery. Now, when we died, our bodies were prepared by family members or women friends. Bodies were preserved in ice and hoisted up next to the ceiling to protect them from rats. Part of the job. Now, coins were placed on the eyelids and the mouth was sewn shut. Now, in some cases, mostly in the mines, the bodies were sprinkled with disinfectant, then wrapped in canvas before being hoisted up to the surface. Now, in 1880, Virginia City became very famous due to a special body preparation technique. Now, it was invented by an Irish undertaker by the name of Comboy.
Yay for the Irish.
I thought you were resting. Now, he used this patented metal called mitt to bleach the blackened hands and faces of the miners after they died. It was truly quite inventive. Put us on the map, as they say. Now, prior to the 1870s, we didn't have a lot of wood lying around, so coffins and head markers were made out of old wagons and wood remnants. We did our best.
Sophia! Yeah! Sophia, darling! Oh, it's good to see you. Where's your brother? How are you? Good. Sophia, since you're here, would you do me a big favor? Would you tell these fine people what it was like to be a kid on the Comstock?
Sure, widow. This place was a blast. Well, until me and my brother got really sick and died. They said it was a fever, but they don't know what really killed a person. In fact, the doctor at St. Mary's just dropped dead on one of those death papers. My dad thought that was silly. They put us here together, which was horrible if you ask me. We never got along. He was always falling down mine shafts, playing with hunter guns. So disgusting, but Mom wanted it that way. So here we are. We're young, but don't get the wrong idea. I hear everybody saying, oh, how young everybody was. Well, not really true. If you're a kid and could be an older kid, like my cousin Sarah, you would have a fine life and a long one too. Well, unless you got hurt in doing the milling and mining. There's lots of accidents there, all right. It was a fun and fancy place, good food, and I loved my teachers there at the Fort Forward School. Best you could get anywhere, my mom would always say. I loved it there. It was just hard at first being dead with just my brother. But now my mom's dead too, so we're just doing fine.
Sophia!
My mom's going, better run. Nice day out there. A little shabby at the moment. But a lovely day that was put down there. Oh well, better run. Bye.
Bye, Sophia.
Bye.
I have to brag on our little Sophia. That was her very first performance ever.
Oh, very good.
And she's only 8. Pretty tall for an 8-year-old.
I dug someone up for you.
Yeah, baby.
What's up?
John!
How's everybody doing? You know, the last time I ran into this guy, he was putting me in the ground. How's everybody doing today?
How are you, John?
I'm doing good. What are you looking at, widow? How's it going? Good to see you. Oh, God.
And how much dirt is on
All right. No, you're good.
John.
We'll get you cleaned up later. How's everybody doing? My name is John. I'm here to talk about the railroad.
No.
How you doing?
No. I need a favor.
Yes.
All right, I need a favor from you. Thomas was telling these fine people about the death train story.
Got it. The death break.
When he got interrupted by the new resident. By the way, did you meet the new resident?
The new resident. You know, I just hear they're just dying to get in here. Oh, man. Anywho.
Anyway,
so,
he got as far as they collected $300 for the funeral.
They collected $300. Anyway, okay, so they collected $300. They faked Jackson's death and they collected $300 from the people of Virginia City. Now, of that $300, Nixon gave Jackson $100 and said, "Why don't you sneak out of town and wait for me over in Sacramento? Because I got a funeral to plan." He finds himself an old dead decaying animal, nails him into an old wooden coffin. He even recruits 8 pallbearers to carry the coffin down to the gravesite. Now, we can only imagine what that smelled like.
Profit.
Not so much. All right?
That's what I do.
Anyway, leave the comedy to the professionals, okay? Please. All right. So, after the funeral was over, you know, Nixon still had some money, some cash. And what do you think he did with that? You invest it wisely? Anyone? All right. How about this?
Yeah, drink and gamble.
Drink and gamble. Yeah, and he blew the rest. And while he was up in Virginia City partying, he decided to tell this cute little story about how the whole thing was a hoax. Jackson was still alive, and they had been stealing money from the people of the city this whole time. So, of course, about this time, Jackson runs into one of the guys that was carrying his casket. Yo, dude! You know? So Jackson is a little ticked off at the way Nixon handled things. So he comes back over to Virginia City. And he wants to straighten Nixon out. He manages to see, he sees Nixon, he's all, "Yo, Nixon, what's up?"
It's not how you...
Gets a couple, Gets a couple of shots off. That's the way we do things.
Wait, wait, you go like...
Oh, like that?
Like that.
Oh, okay, right on. All right.
What was that?
Okay, I knew that. So anyway, he gets a couple of shots off at him, but Nixon escapes. So Jackson can't very well stay in Virginia City because he's catching a lot of heat from the people of the city. Hey, here comes the dead guy. And they gave him a new nickname, Old Stiff. So the pressure becomes a little too great for Nixon, and he eventually leaves town. Now, in 1877, the people of Virginia City actually do find out that Henry Jackson does in fact die, for real this time, over in Deadwood, Dakota Territory. So that's the story about the death parade. But I'm here to talk about the railroad. May I have my whistle, please?
Only if you do one more favor for me.
Does it ever stop?
No,
I didn't think so.
never.
I know.
I would like you to tell these fine people about the section of the cemetery you buried in.
Betty? Who's Betty? Betty! Oh, Betty! Betty! She was a wonderful lady. She had a wooden leg, did it for a while. I broke it off. But anyway.
I didn't say Betty.
Said buried.
Buried. Oh,
Okay.
where they were buried.
Let me say it another way. All right. Would you tell these fine people about the section of the cemetery where your hole in the ground is?
Oh, the hole
In the ground.
Now, the section of the cemetery that I'm buried in is called the Knights of Pythias. The Knights of Pythias was formed in 1864 in an effort to diminish the hate that was caused by the Civil War. The group was based on the story of Damon and Pythias, whose friendship was so strong they were willing to die for each other. So now I assume the Knights are still present here, and thus, of course, war no longer exists. So, besides the war going on between her and I, of course. Anyway, many a railway man was a knight. Really? I got my start in Carson as a cleaner.
Oh no.
Just clean these.
Oh no.
Then I became a brakeman. It was a good job. You know, but putting a railway in this area was no easy chore. It cost $52,000 for each mile of laid track. The project was funded by the Bank of California, and they were incredibly cheap. They tried to give our jobs away to the Chinese, and we had to march on those Chinese camps to preserve our work and our wages. We finally won, and
That's new.
the union made a pretty penny, at least for a while. So we broke ground in 1869, February. We were delayed by lack of supplies for a while, but by September of that year, we were able to complete the connection between Virginia City and Carson City. Although working in the steep terrain caused many a man to make up a couple of new swear words, if you know what I'm saying. So, now after all the work was done, the boom left, and the silence came to the city. The last rail car pulled out of Virginia City in June of 1938. We managed to name a rail car after Julia Bulette, the murdered prostitute. Now, I do not partake in that type of activity whatsoever, so I wouldn't know who she is. I'm not here. So,
And
apparently,
if you believe this, I got land for sale right here.
apparently, she became famous after someone murdered her, but I don't know. That's all I've heard. So, anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Really?
That was a good month.
Need a hand?
2 months.
I got this.
Okay.
Oh my.
Please follow us.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what these are. These are bunnies?
They look like bunnies, yeah.
Turn around.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
What time is it anyway? That's what I was looking for.
11:16.
This should be the last one then.
Charlotte. Charlotte.
What happened? There used to be clovers and morning glories all over the place. And I would always help out all of my friends in keeping up their relatives' graves. And we would hang canvas out to protect the flowers from the intense heat. Widow, what happened?
It's been a long time. And people are trying to fix it. But would you tell these fine people about your life here in Virginia City?
Oh, well, of course.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Charlotte. Well, many women had to travel a long ways before they actually ended up on the Comstock. And Everyone called it a man's playground, but eventually, as women started to come in, we were able to get all of the fashions and luxuries that life would provide, if you had the money, of course. I was very fortunate. I married the Story County assessor, and we were both very well off, but not like one of my very good friends, Georgina. Her husband, he was always sick or out of work, and well, it seemed that one day she would get all of her bills paid, and then the next she would lose half of her savings on mining stock even. And she would always get so happy and excited whenever she had provisions for winter or a large pig in the corral, and even then that could change at any minute. A lot of the women here had to work, having boarding houses, housework, laundry, and yes, I've heard that there were plenty of prostitutes. I had a wonderful life here, though. Travel, social outings, and friends were most of what I occupied my time. And one of my favorite things to do was go to Piper's Opera House. Their performances were always so well done. But the noise. It used to be so loud here because of all the machinery and the mining equipment, but now it's so quiet. I don't think I could sleep very well. But it was a wonderful life, and traveling was one of my favorite things to do. My children especially loved going on long trips to the lake in the summers and having parties at the Bowers Mansion. I loved going on stagecoach rides from here to Cisco and back, but one of them ended badly, I think. My head hurt.
Charlotte took a trip with her family and 3 children to Cisco.
I remember the carriage falling to the side.
Coach overturned, pushing Charlotte through the window and onto the wheel.
My head hurts and I can't move.
She died within 30 minutes.
Once freed from the wheel, she was laid on the side of the road with her children watching.
She died within 30 minutes.
Her funeral was very well attended. 60 carriages and many on horseback and on foot. She was a lovely lady and very well liked. Charlotte was the first woman buried in the Masonic section. The Masonic section is built in the shape of a shovel with the point facing east. Please follow us.
Now, Charlotte wasn't the only resident that was concerned about the condition of the cemetery. When this beautiful piece of ground was still in use, miners continued to dig test holes and pits to see if they held anything of value, sometimes digging right underneath the bodies. Now, there is no other place where you can find men searching for gold in churchyards and cemeteries, but they did here. There's nothing more than material greed.
Oh, Thomas. You have to realize that Thomas had to bury many of his friends. Please follow me. Now, this is our 24th performance of our show. We had to take 2 years off for that illness thing. So 26 years ago, when we did our first show, we used to do it in reverse order of what we're doing it today. And the reason we did that is because we wanted you to see the original old gate to the Masonic section. Now, if you see the side of the hill there, and you see that pole kind of down on the hill, 26 years ago, I stood behind that pole. That's how much it has eroded through the years. So we felt it wasn't safe to bring you back that way. So we did the show, we do the show in reverse, and we bring you up. But I do think it's important for you to see the original old gate to the Masonic section. Our next visitor, our next resident, you're the visitor, is Ed Edgington. And his, right over there. There's a stoop here and a tree, so be careful. I don't have to worry about the tree anymore. Oh, Ed, you truly loved Lily, didn't you?
I expect I still do. She was a lovely child. I married her mother, Mary Bailey, on October 6, 1867 in that church right over there. Now, Lily was a beautiful girl. In fact, she might have been a little too pretty. You see, not long after she married Mark, he filed for divorce under adultery charges. Now, I didn't think much of those adultery charges at first, but then, the day after the divorce was final, she up and married Jimmy Chester. He wasn't half the man Mark was, but she just couldn't get enough of him.
Ed, your life here in Virginia City, was it a good one?
Oh my, it was the best. But you can't really talk about Virginia City without talking about the mining. Because mining is how Virginia City lived, and lived in such fine taste and luxury. Now, when I first came out here from Ohio, I tried to stay away from mining. So I took a job as the Internal Revenue Assessor. Mm-hmm. Now, widow, I didn't talk disparagingly of you when you started your escort service. We all got to make a living. Oh, and by the way, John said to return these to you from your escorting the other night.
Widow?
You've been hanging around John.
He said something about this too, huh? Yeah, or something. Anyway, he thought you'd get it. Anywho, I was good with men, so I was proud to become the superintendent of the union mill and work with all those brave, strong men. Now, mining gave us everything we could ever want. Our house was a mansion that was high above the crowds on B Street. It stood sturdy for years. It's gone now, as is much of the city. Now, I expect it's hard for you folks to imagine what Virginia City was like, considering how it looks now. But it was an amazing city. It was crammed full of people, and most of them worked in the mines. Our mines held so much innovation and technology. People came from hundreds of miles around just to watch us work and take photographs. Now, an average ore car weighed about 1,400 pounds, and we could move that thing up 700 feet per minute. So in 24 hours, we could move over 400 tons of ore up to the surface. So it's not what you might be thinking, pans and little picks. Why, Mackey's first strike, that vein grew to over 20 feet tall and 54 feet wide. You could turn a stagecoach and a team of horses around in it. Now, that plateau, for example, that took us less than a month to build that plateau. And we did that because the city asked us to build it for them. A man named Doubleday came through town, and he convinced the city that if they built something called a baseball park, that people would pay money to watch people play a game. Can you imagine folks spending their hard-earned money watching grown men play with a stick and a ball? Well, you can see how that worked out. Anyway, the men's safety was most important to me. I prayed for them every day, but the conditions in the mine were terrible. The foul air, the darkness, and the heat. It was said that you could tell a miner just by what he ordered for dinner after that night. After a day of sweltering in those mines, the men would come up craving pickles, pig's feet, fruit, ham, any kind of seasoned or salted food. And there was over 100 saloons in Virginia City and Gold Hill. That's enough to wash all that salt down with. Why, we served over 67,000 gallons of liquor in 1880 alone, and that was a slow year. So you can imagine.
Abe, I know you're just being polite. Go on, tell him.
Ma'am, sorry, I was just trying to do right by the men in the mining.
I know, but go ahead.
Okay. My horse! My precious horse! I loved horse racing. Flying down the track with my thick, long black hair, blowing in the wind. Sorry, I get carried away when I think about that. Anyway, I loved horse racing. Now, we had tracks in Carson and over in Loustown, but I really preferred to take my horse down to California and run him on those tracks. I love my horse. Tobacco plant. What an animal. I finally sold him to Leland for a hefty $20,000. I miss that horse. I miss Virginia City.
Abe died of consumption in California. His body was brought back up here in Elaine State at the Washoe Club. His funeral was a mile long.
And his favorite horse was there walking behind the hearse with Abe's boots reversed in the stirrups. The horse was Lily's idea. Sweet Lily. Thomas has a few more things to tell you.
So the symbolism on the headstones and fences of the cemetery has specific meanings. Lily of the Valley symbolizes the Virgin Mary. Wheat suggests the bounty of the earth and the human nature with Christ. Wings are a sign of divine mission. The lamb is Christ. And my favorite, the weeping willow, reflects the sorrow of those left behind. Now this tree is very unique in that it continues to grow no matter how many branches are cut off. Another favorite, the dove, symbolizes the Holy Ghost. Now yes, we are in a cemetery, but it's a place filled with history and symbolism. And in a very, very real sense, it is filled with life. Please take this opportunity to notice these treasures before they fade into the dust. And we're going to go right outside the gate.
Our little Charlotte, this is her very first time with us. And she came on board a week ago, so she didn't even have her script until a week ago. So I'm very proud of her.
Good.
Yes. She did better than I did, and I've been doing this for 24 years.
Well, you've been drinking, so.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, maybe you should cut down. You're forgetting that you had a shot.
Why don't I just forget it and have another one?
I don't think that's how it works.
Oh, okay.
So during the past 90 minutes, you've heard everything that the human side of Virginia City has done to make what this place became. People tend to always forget about the animals. And the animals played such a huge role in making what Virginia City is today, or back then. If it wasn't for them, who knows what may have happened. So, this young lady here is Mary Jane Simpson. She is one of Mackey's mules. She's buried right where this ground is eroded. She's a very smart animal. She was one of the fortunate ones that worked above ground because all the animals that worked below ended up going blind. She was so smart that she knew what every bell meant. The one that she really liked was when that shift ended, because she would step out of her track and wait, because she knew the miners were coming up. They saved something in their lunch pails, she'd get a snack. Unfortunately, we lost her in the Great Fire. They didn't get to her in time. So the foundation decided to erect this monument for all the animals that were such a major role with Virginia City and everything that happened up here. They also erected that monument over there for the Jewish people of the town and their contributions. You know, even though they didn't want to come over here, they still wanted them to be recognized, which I think is so outstanding. Now, we may have one celebrity in the cemetery. He is the namesake of Story County. Captain Story is buried at the top of the hill where that obelisk is. That's his grave. We wanted to do something with Captain Story, but he's not family friendly. And we couldn't come up with anything, especially with children. Now, a couple more questions. Why were all the Catholics buried way in the back? Any idea? They died.
We have to put them somewhere. So we put them back there. And how many people do you think is buried here? In all of the cemeteries?
Thousands.
All of them are buried here because they all died. I got that one. You see, when we started this, I was the one who told those jokes. And he stole my jokes.
Well, you just kept forgetting to chime in.
No, you just kept thinking there should be something said. So, we're going to continue on down back to the house. And we'll have just a little bit more to tell you at the bottom of the hill. On the computer.
Why do you keep teaching her these things, Widow?
I just bring her into the future with me once in a while. She's like the granddaughter, you know.
You get tired of your prattle about old traditions and needing to find a husband, blah, blah, blah.
Because that's the correct way of doing things, guys.
In your time, maybe.
Widow, that's your spot right here, Widow.
Of course we are. And how dare you give him some I didn't give you anything like that.
Oh, did I get my handcuffs back?
What?
I came back to the widow like you asked me.
I'm telling you, I never know what's going to happen when I go to these.
It's a building block process. Building.
No, they are not. They are not mine. Oh, Julia, are they yours?
I'm not going to say if they're mine or not.
Oh, okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed your walk today. You know, it's not an easy task to make a cemetery tour a happy and light occasion. But we hope you leave with a better understanding of the precious lives of the people on the Comstock and of mining, which is such a huge part of our past and our present. Stop and read as you pass by. As you are now, once was I. As I am now, will thee. Prepare for death and follow me. Prepare for